8 people on Thursday sustained machete wounds when supporters of both the NPP and the NDC clashed in a reprisal takeover of the Aboabo station, and this happened in Kumasi.
NPP supporters attacked and drove away operators of the terminal early this year, citing a similar takeover some 8 years ago. Several machete-wielding NDC youth yesterday stormed the station to fight for space. Here's Love FM's Erastus Asari Donkos reports.
This is Aboabo station, and behind me is the Alaba community, which is a merchant city on its own, and it makes business here very profitable. This station you see here to my right is the bone of contention here. There are two factions fighting to work here and load passengers to the 3 northern regions. Now, with every government coming into session, we have one party coming over to drive away the other party and taking hold of this particular station, which is the gold mine for many of the transport operators here. And so, with the incoming of Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo's government, we had NPP supporters who came in here and drove their NDC colleagues away from this part. Previously, the issue had gone to the KMA, and they had decided that both should occupy this particular land, the NDC to this side and the NPP to this side. Now, they have driven them away and they have occupied both parts. And so, many of the NDC supporters who are starving have also threatened on a number of occasions to come here and retaliate.
Our people, our secretary, were being wounded with a cutlass, a knife. I can't tell. He's the assistant secretary, and then one of the Ludum boys they warned him, and then they themselves called our chairman and then the station master to come and witness something here. That was the message that they gave me. When these people came here, our chairman and then the station master, they beat them up, and then they ran away. So, and we said that no, maybe the police are there to tell us that we should come and fight for our rights, else they should have acted something on that. And then the day that they act this thing, they were being detained people from their side, their leaders. When they took them there, I did not go to the police station because I'm a small boy in the group. But our leaders went there, and then at the end of the day, they told us that the Alidu, who was the candidate for NPP side, came there and then tell them that they should release them. The order is coming from top.
If our government is in power, they will know how to handle it. They will come and attack us here. They want government or the high authority to ban this station from working so that we and them will be equal. And it wasn't like that. When your government came and then you came and drove us away here, we were nowhere near this place. And now our government too is in power. We came and took it peacefully.
So what will make this whole thing go away? What will bring a solution and end to all this?
No, we are appealing to our members because we are not on our own. We belong to political party. So we are appealing to them. They should come out and fight for us.
Well, when the situation at the Aboabo station got bloody in the morning, we understand and we have been able to confirm that 6 people who sustained machete wounds were brought in here. But just a short while ago, the police brought 2 people in critical condition. One has a severed arm and some huge machete cuts to the head. So when you go in there, we have blood all over, blood stains all over the place coming from the young man who has sustained a huge cut to the right wrist. And so the wrist is almost severed as we speak. Now, it is also giving us indication that there is a renewed confrontation or clash at the Aboabo station as we speak.
Minim shi no mo ba no ger obi baba som ticket dia meto ana sikano na me si dabe me mpa no mo di dua ana sikan abo me terno anti onu dia minim omo dia anti no mo ba no
kan to kwa no ho ne ade
me kan ba mi na auto ticket no ti omo ba no no over fast can na see dabe mempana no mo di ayina boameti oh miss ahana nyina wo mo di sika atwa yeah
Well, so he says he was selling the tickets. He's part of the transport operators at the terminal Aboabo station, and when the group came, they just tried to take over the cash for the day, and he will not allow them. So he sustained some machete wounds to the head and then to the arms as he's trying to show.
The 2017 budget presented by Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta on Thursday will scrap a number of taxes the NPP administration has described as nuisance whilst reducing some others.
And the NPP, all through the 2016 campaign, pledged to get rid of the so-called nuisance taxes. It says we're discouraging businesses, and this was delivered by the Finance Minister on Thursday.
With this budget, abolish the 1% special import levy. Abolish the 17.5% VAT on financial services. Abolish the 17.5% VAT on selected imported medicines that are not produced locally. Initiate steps to remove import duties on raw materials and machinery. We will initiate steps to remove import duties on raw materials and machinery for production within the context of the ECOWAS Common External Tariff Protocol. We will abolish the 70.5% of domestic airline tickets. We will abolish the 5% VAT on real estate sales. Mr. Speaker, we will abolish excise duty on petroleum. Mr. Speaker, we will reduce the special petroleum tax rate from 70.5% to 15%. We shall abolish levies imposed on Kaya by local authorities.
And he also spoke about plans to review the tax exemption regime to check abuses in the system.
We are also determined to tackle the systemic abuse in the exemptions regime. There shall be a comprehensive review of the regime on import duty exemptions and tax reliefs with a view to eliminating abuses and improving efficiency in the application of these incentives. To this end, the review will cover, among others, the following exemptions and tax reliefs as a matter of urgency: import duties, taxes and levies payable by MDAs and other government departments, import duties on all forms of taxes and levies payable by both domestic and foreign companies, suppliers and contractors executing projects and contracts in the country, import duty on all forms of taxes and levies payable by employees, directors and senior officials of both domestic and foreign companies, suppliers and contractors executing projects in the country, import duties on all forms of taxes and levies payable by both domestic and foreign companies and investors doing business in the country, and import duties on all forms of taxes and levies payable by non-governmental and charity organizations.
Well, Ken Ofori-Atta did not, however, give much detail as to how the government would fund the much-anticipated free senior high school education policy, except that part of the oil revenue will go into supporting the policy.
As part of our commitment to improve access to education at all levels, government will implement the comprehensive free public senior high school program, starting with the 2017-2018 academic year. Mr. Speaker, adequate provision have been made for the funding of this monumental social intervention program, which is set to begin in September 2017 from the ABFA and other domestic revenue sources. Mr. Speaker, we will initiate discussions with all stakeholders interested in the performance and excellence of their senior high schools in their communities. Parents, school alumni, religious organizations, the diaspora, and they'll be encouraged to establish a funding mechanism to support high schools of their choice. This will reinforce community involvement in governance and improve the quality of education in our senior high schools.
Now let's look at this. Former Finance Minister Seth Terkper was in Parliament during the presentation of the budget by Ken Oforiatta, and one social media commentator described the moment he was captured on TV in the chamber as he was watching live the dismantling of his tax empire, in quotes. And he was asked for his reaction to the scrapping of the taxes, especially when he was so convinced at the time that he was putting them together that they were necessary.
Has not been done. The ESLA has not been removed. The corporate tax has not been reduced to 20% yet. You know, you have not seen a total eradication of the 17.5. We raised it from 15, to 17.5. All that has been done, is to pick a few. And I think the speech writers should have been a bit more careful also. There is no national tax on Kayaye. You know that this is a local government, tax.
So that was a mistake. There is no tax like that.
I'm only laying the records. I like the Ghanaians to know that there is nothing like a national Kayaye tax. It is a local government, policy to impose those levies. If you want them to go, the right place is to go to the district assemblies. And the question is, if it's for Kayaye, is it for truck pushers? Is it for the porters? That class. And this is also one very important thing. We do not impose taxes only on account of revenue. We do impose taxes on account of efficiency and on account of equity. And so the point is we have an expanding services sector. And so you cannot continue to take the services sector out of the tax net forever. I think you are not being efficient. And I think these are some of the issues, which I think with time we are going to be discussing.
You think that the minister was selective in his whole tax approach? That's what you think?
Well, that
could have done better.
That could be your conclusion. I just said that we are not saying, no, please, I just gave you the rendition that we have not seen a reduction in the corporate tax to 20%. We have not seen a removal of the ESLA. We have not seen a rollback of the additional 2.5% on the VAT across board. And there are issues also we need to be careful. For example, well, I understand you may want to pamper to say, spare parts dealers, but is Ghana going to be a source of smuggling where goods are going to, these spare parts are going to come to Ghana and then they will be seen across the border, and then the revenue benefit we were supposed to have gotten, with the near to our neighboring state. We had this experience with very, very low crude oil prices, and we know that it encouraged, smuggling. So we are only going to deprive ourselves of revenue. I'm also not sure whether, the caution with raw materials in saying that it is within the ECOWAS convergence criteria has been thought through. Are we going to do this unilaterally outside the ECOWAS convergence, the ECOWAS tariff? I think we need to be patient, and I think these are issues that will be debated.
You think it's more of a populist approach? That's what you think?
No, I'm only saying that the policy, could have been looked at more deeply, and the implications sought. The confidence in saying, I like the caution when it came to raw materials, that it is within the ECOWAS tariff, nomenclature, and consultations will go on. You don't also move, therefore, to other, taxes, import duties in particular. And by the way, we must know that all indirect taxes are costs which are deductible. And therefore, those people who often push for these taxes to be removed are those who are non-compliant.
No, but let me get the views of a member on the Finance Committee as well, and we'll also be getting the view of the Honourable Jinapo. But for you, so finally for you, government is hoping that this will spare growth.
No, for me,
engineer, private sector development, and all those things.
There was no mention of EXIM, for example, which is the prime, instrument we put in place, for example, for exporters. I'm glad that it has not been taken off. I'm glad that they talk about taking out the gift. Yes, the investment, of course, yes.
Are you worried?
No, it's not going off. If you listen to the minister, in fairness to him, he said that there was an earlier proposal along the same lines. And let me assure the public that we did consider that, that draft in coming up with a gift. And I see the convergence. The difference is that the emphasis of the first one was on private sector. We wanted the emphasis because the revenues were coming from the petroleum funds and linked with the debt management. So it didn't go away. All I'm saying is that there are a lot of initiatives that we were told would go away, which haven't gone away.
Well, former Deputy Finance Minister and Member of Parliament for Ejumako Enyane, Siam Atokesa Forsen, on his part, described the entire budget as deceptive and populist, warning some of the measures would cause more harm than good.
I can see the budget is very deceptive, it's very populist. In fact, it's not well thought through. Some of the policies cannot preserve the country's medium-term challenges that we are likely to go through. But I can only say that Ghanaians should brace ourselves for bigger challenges ahead of us. I say this because, one, the finance minister said that they have removed taxes relating to the special import levy. And he mentioned that they have removed only the 1% of the special import levy. I think it's deceptive, very deceptive, and very, very populist. Because the special import tax has two main components, the 1% and the 2%. He only came to Parliament to remove the 1% element. That 1% element, when you are to quantify it, is under 100 million. The main one is the 2%. The 2% of the special import levy, that will give you total revenue of about 568 million. He was silent on that. It's nothing but very deception. Let me also talk about the other one that he mentioned. He talked about the fact that in their manifesto, they are going to scrap taxes on raw materials. Today, in his presentation, he was silent about it. The only one, taxes on raw material, import duty on raw materials that he mentioned, was on the pharmaceutical industry. Why wasn't he so open to announce that he was going to remove all of that?
Say that they have 4 years to rule this country. In their manifesto, there wasn't any clear timelines. If any government has just started, and even the first year, they've given these indications, some people might say there is more to come.
Let me say that they were very categorical during their campaign that in their first budget, for instance, they are going to reduce the corporate income tax from 25% to 20%. Today they are pushing it to 2018. By the end of 2018, they will say they can't do it. They are pushing it to the next administration. What is this? This is deception. The so-called taxes they claim they have removed, if you are to quantify them, it's less than $1 billion. It's less than $1 billion. They decided to be quiet on those big tax handles that they have promised Ghanaians. They were quiet. Let's go to the drawing board and quantify them one by one, and quantify what is in their budget, what is in their so-called their manifesto. You will see clearly there's a complete departure of what they promised Ghanaians and what they are doing today.
Do you think that if they submit the necessary regulations, there will be fine details on other things that they might want to do?
Regulations does not introduce taxes. Regulations does not reduce taxes. Legislations, probably they will come with legislation, but he announced them. Another thing that he talked about, which I find is so sad, is the fact that they are going to more or less scrap import duties on spare parts. Let me say that this policy is not consistent with the already agreement that the old cars over age cars are going to attract higher, higher tariffs at the port. He should as well remove that one. Because if you fail to remove that one, you are not achieving anything. Let me say that tax policy is not only for revenue. What they have done, you know what it means? Ghana is going to be a dumping grounds for some of these spare parts.
And the announcement of the scrapping of import duty on vehicle spare parts was naturally very well received at the spare parts hub Aboabo here in Accra. And the dealers in return are promising a drastic reduction in the prices of their parts very soon. So we'll bring you a lot more update from Latif Idris, who visited there.
This was the part of the budget presentation the spare part dealers had been waiting for.
All of our friends in Aboabo, we will abolish duty on the importation of spare parts.
The duty had always proved a real nuisance, and so came to them as great relief.
My name is William Sotri. Na ayenije se mayen ne due esan se ya na ndwen ho se nana ebe ye niema se di amayen e wom so kan de na ye nyina enim se nana betumi aye but ne nya nim anim yae oba ye nche ne adwen se bia me 2 years time no na betumi aye na se ne na hyasie na hyasie mponi oh eja waya de.
Before the increase of the prices at the taxes at the harbor was very high. And that made all the spare parts, the prices, when they bring it into our market here, we can't reduce the prices. You understand? So it made all the customers who came to buy from the shop, from our shops, they can't buy it. And they were all complaining. So now, I think from the budget that they have announced to us, everything is going to come down. And I know surely it is going to be reduced for our customers to buy from us.
You give me your name?
Mr. Usu.
What do you do here at Aboabo?
I sell spare parts here.
Spare part. How long have you been in this business?
Almost about 3 years now.
And how has business been over the years?
At least it's normal. But right now, we feel free because as the taxes have gone down, we know now our goods are going to come down so that we can do the business and so that things can move on better. So that's all we are craving for, and now we've got it. So now we thank the Akufo and his management for what we have brought to us, and we thank God that this thing is going to continue so that everybody will be free.
Are you looking forward to expanding your business?
Yes, definitely, because we know how things have gone now. Our business is going to boom up. Everything is going to come up so that we can invest in more areas. So we thank God for the Nadu coming in to do what we're yearning for him to do for us. So we thanks to God. And thanks to God, that's all we need. Formerly, when we go to the Aboabo to take our goods, we couldn't take it because the prices were too high. And then we'd be craving for it, crying that it should come down. But no one seems to listen to us. But we thank God we've got the Messiah who have come in to help us to rise up again. And then we give thanks to God that Anadu has done it.
Finance Secretary of the Aboabo Spare Part Dealers Association, Nana Kwame Napepra, says the reduction should be expected as early as Friday.
Whilst all these taxes are going to be reduced, I'll pass on to them so that they can also enjoy it.
So should we look forward to members of your association drastically reducing prices of goods here?
Yes, after they have if they start to implement what the finance minister said, even from today, by tomorrow you hear something from Aboabo. Definitely.
Joy News will monitor and report on how drastic the reduction would be. Latif Idris, Joy News, Accra.
Latif Idris looks like somebody who will be benefiting from those reductions in the spare parts prices, ultimately when we have the taxes on their importation reduced. But that is why we need to do lengthy discussions on the subject. We'll be having in the studio with the University of Cape Coast Business School, Dr. John Gachi in the studio.
Yeah, a lot more conversations on Facebook as well. But we've got the newspapers, and your guess is definitely right. Ken Oforiatta is making front page headlines in almost all the newspapers
all of
today.
Them. All of them. Yeah.
So stay with us with more of the reviews in the newspapers.
We'll be right back.